Good afternoon.
Hello. Hi, I'm Dustin Brusnak. We're going to be talking about removing risk when developing your digital product, as the intro said. So if we'd move on to the next slide, we can introduce ourselves and get started. So we have about 45 minutes with you, and we're going to walk through exactly how to build a digital product so that you have a 100% success rate. You walk out of here totally victorious.
First install Xcode.
This is really, really hard. And our goal here is to teach you what not to do. I can't tell you how to make your business successful because that's the unique sauce that you as founders and product owners bring to your space. But what I can do is share 20 plus years of experience building digital software, telling you what not to do, how to find partners, how to think about your tech team, and where to go from there so that you can be as successful as possible and don't make the mistakes that we all made. And for those of you who want to see more about that, we do have fun this evening where we're going to be talking about that some more. So who am I? I'm Dustin Brusnak, CEO of Modern Logic. We're a software consultancy. We build primarily consumer-based mobile apps for impact-driven companies. So that's what we do. We have shipped, I don't know, over 100 pieces of software just ourselves. And I've been in the space for about 20 years, working for companies like Adobe. People here have been at Apple and Microsoft and so on. So we've built some very high-profile products that you've heard of and used. And our products are in the hands of hundreds of millions, if not billions of people. So that's why we know what we're talking about. So I'll throw the ball to Chip. He can introduce himself. He's the real master here.
No. Hi, my name is Chip Peterson. I've been in the tech industry for 35 years, originally from the range, from Minnesota, then wanted to go out west, and I worked for Apple for a number of years, and was in video games for 21 years, and now doing mobile software. Really enjoy it, and love to be back in Minnesota, and also I am trusted with the clicker today, so it's a big team effort here. So, Andy, how about you?
Hi, I'm Andy Ron. I'm engineering manager at Modern Logic. Like these two, been in software a long time. Got my start after I gave up on molecular biology, started at Adobe, building software there for 15 years, products like Adobe Photoshop Lightroom and mobile photography products. Then joined Dustin and his twin brother at Modern Logic 7 years ago, building apps for startups, other small companies, and it's been just a blast getting a chance to build so many different products for different customers, be it Bluetooth integration with devices or building software that are social networks and communities of people, some really great apps with great companies that are kind of a feel-good thing, but also a great company to work for. So,
cool. All right, let's move on, get started, dig in. So first tip, we're going to structure this as 5 tips. First tip is hire an experienced team. So we're not here to say hire Modern Logic, although if you did, that'd be a good idea. No, there's the shilling right out of the way. Really, you have a lot of choices to building a team. You can build an offshore team, an onshore team. You could do an agency model. You could go with a hybrid. If you have agency, you can choose staff augmentation, project work. And as a founder who's trying to get something built, there is a ton of choices out there for you to make, and it's often really hard to narrow the space. And I know this because I've done, before Modern Logic, 4 other startups of my own, right? And so you have a lot of choices, and how do you basically begin choosing between these different things? And it's really important to make those right choices early. And I think it really starts with picking a team that both understands the solution space that you're trying to do. That's tech stack. That's, if you're building consumer software, a group of people that is built for consumer software. So if you are a technical founder or you have a technical co-founder, that's great. But don't just build it in the language you know, on the tech stack you understand. That might seem like the most expedient way to get to the solution. But if you're building on something that you then can't build on in the future, you can't hire for, like if you're doing Ruby on Rails, for example, you're not going to be able to hire for that. Right? Unless you have the team in-house, right? So find the team that has that experience, whether it's internal, external, or so on. And we're going to talk a little bit about the choices and why you make that. So I'm going to throw the ball to Chip to talk about, what the differences are between in-house, offshore, et cetera.
Sure. So in-house is literally you're building your own team. You're building your own band. You're hiring them. They could be virtual. They could be all working under the same roof, but they're all there local in some form. There's pros and cons of both. A lot of it right now is building an in-house team is finding the right talent, actually having the budget to find that right talent, especially right now. And then also, so you may have to give them, it's not just salary right now. There's a lot of, we had a great talk yesterday on, building a great company. So there's other things that may attract people on that. So I actually had a lot of experience with offshore, working with offshore when I was at Microsoft and also with Activision Blizzard. And our biggest thing was you really have to do your due diligence. I mean, you can go to Upworks and you can find somebody online really quick that's going to build something for you, and it's like, hey, it's only $15 an hour. You don't know how many clients they have. You don't know what they're working on. We ran into a lot of language barriers. We ran into a lot of cultural barriers where they just didn't understand. So I did a hockey game one time, and the ref came, and he was wearing shorts because they really knew basketball. They didn't know hockey. So the ref was running around in shorts, and we had to explain that to them. We had to explain what other sports things to them. So what we really had to do a lot is actually fly there and stay with them for weeks, or every month we were there for a week, just so we actually kind of became that one team, and we developed a language that we all understood, terminology that we all stood. So that's one thing you really want to take advantage of. It may be cheaper, but it may cost you more in the long run because it may take more time, may take more money because you have to have it done a couple times. So be careful. Onshore.
Great way to blow your timeline as well.
Yes. Onshore, also near shore. You can work with that. I think one of the great outcomes of COVID was the opening of remote's okay. A lot of people now are doing remote, and things are getting done. So offering that. Do you want to?
Yeah, no, I had a couple thoughts because another way you might pursue getting your digital product built is just to go with like one smart developer and think, this is the person that's going to do it all. And there's great efficiency in one person doing everything until it's too much work for one person. And that's why an agency is so critical, because they have the experience of not just building the products, but they have the teamwork and communication worked out for how to have a process so that multiple people can tackle a hard problem together. And that's really something as a founder you don't want to be taking on yourself, because you have so many other concerns running your business to not have to be in the weeds day to day, making sure that these 3 developers have something to do, they're doing the right thing, they're not 2 of them doing the same thing, and then a quality process, planning for the future. And a good digital agency will have that all figured out. They have a sprint process, they have Scrum, they can give you timelines, and this will come at this date. They also have a quality process. So there's people whose dedicated purpose is to test the software, make sure it's working, and actually record that in a test plan so that it's not just, I tested it once, but now no one really knows how that thing works anymore. No, you record that so all the way into the future we can make sure the software maintains a high level of quality. Real
life example, we were sitting in the green room, which was really orange, and we were talking about, hey, we got to ship this product tomorrow. We just started talking to Dylan, one of the other people on the team and co-founder, and he's like, can I help? And we we just pulled up the bug list and started going, why don't you hit that? Why don't you hit that? They can just move in because they know the stack. They know what we're working on. One other tip, and I'll throw it back to you. When you're looking at an offshore team, we actually ran into a problem where, I won't say the name, Upworks, where we put out a bid to look for a developer. And what we found, people were actually disguising themselves as people in North America, and they were sending the product to overseas. They were actually paying people to interview, pretend they're in North Carolina, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, and then they sold it. They were selling it offshore. So be really careful and ask a lot of questions. Are you really the team doing this? Is it not going out? Or we found it out really quick with the one person was looked great on paper and started working, and then his just kind of productivity drift off. So cut early, cut often.
We found that really want to be on a video call with them, so to make sure the person that you're talking to on Tuesday was the same one you talked to on Monday, because they would bait and switch.
Yeah, so there's all these concerns and issues. It can be done, and it has been done successfully. And I think the real key is for offshore and nearshore, have a reputable company that you respect, ideally one you've worked with before or someone on your team has worked with before, and you absolutely need someone on your team with experience managing a project that is offshore or nearshore, because that set of skills does not translate to product owners, to founders, to other project managers that are used to having onshore team. It's a totally different set of skills, and if you don't have that on the team, do something else. Find your own team. Find some money. You're going to be out looking for money anyway, right? Your full-time job as a founder is often to go and get seed, Series A, et cetera. And so when you're out doing that, you don't want a team that requires your specific direction. That's the other thing is if you're managing an offshore or a staff augmentation agency, near shore or here, you're going to have to tell them exactly what to do. You're going to have to make every single decision. They're not going to make decisions for you. They're going to build it exactly to order. And that's great, except you're probably going to be wrong as much as you're right, because this is maybe your first product, maybe your second product. And you want someone who's opinionated. I think that's what you get with an agency. That said, maybe you don't. Offshore is great. Note that we didn't put freelancer on here, because the freelancer story is always the same. You hire the freelancer, you can't afford to pay them as much as they would want. They say, yeah, I can do it. I can fit it in. I can do it on weekends and evenings. Suddenly they have a full-time job and they stop responding to your email. And you're left with some shitty code and nobody to tell you how to translate it and how to get it up and running, and no support. And that person meant well, but they can't support you. So really, you got to think in terms of how am I building this team and what culture am I building and how am I going to build this going forward. You need a product owner, project manager, quality assurance team. You need lead developer. You need normal developers, data people. Try to hire for all that in today's environment. You're going to have real trouble. But if you start with a lot of funding and that in mind, it can be done. It's just, it's a really risky endeavor. And you got to ask yourself, am I saving money now, but what is that costing me long term, right? So I think we'll move on to the next slide. So yeah, our biggest tip, and something we say a lot at Modern Logic, is ship, right? You need to get to market fast. And this is, as a founder myself, I totally get, I feel like a broken record because I tell people this all the time. You're an idealist in a world that is pragmatic, right? You need to deliver software to the market. You don't even know if people are going to pay for it, right? You think they will, and you felt strongly enough about it to leave your job at BigCo. That's great, but that stuff immediately starts working against you, because that vision translates into creating a product roadmap that can't be built effectively for the resources that you have. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to find a team with experience building the products you have, external, internal, whatever, that is going to tell you no, or that's going to tell you this is too hard, you're doing too much, we can't ship, and you need to trust that team, right? The other component that I would say is the big clients, they're lying to you. If you're a B2B company and you're working on a big insurance sale and you're a medical company and this company's like, just one more feature, just get to market, just get this other thing signed, they're lying to you. It doesn't cost them anything for some middle manager to sit with you and say, I'll buy this software, right? Don't listen to them. Follow your vision for that, right? Your loud customers, your shiny objects, ask yourself what it's costing these people to be nice, Minnesota nice to you, right? They'll kill your business by promising you for 2 years that they'll buy from you, and when you get the product done, they won't, right? Get to market, validate. The only way you know that you have a successful business is the first time a customer pays you money. That's it. You need to get to that as soon as humanly possible, ideally before you get even the product built, but if you can't do that, then we have some great stories here in town about people who did that. But that's the key. Get to market. Pick a fast first market and get that first dollar, because that's the only validation that really matters. Otherwise, you're just stuck in your head. Throw the ball to Andy to talk a little more.
I mean, and getting to market might mean actually delaying or not building the technology yet. Because if you don't know what your customers want yet, it's actually a waste of money to hire an agency to build you a product. There are other ways to validate that you're building the right thing. Just even simple as paper prototypes, take to customers, get feedback, iterate in as efficient a way as possible. And that's where you might bring out some of the low-code solutions or something. Until you validate that this is what customers are going to pay you for. Because as soon as they're paying you, you can now turn that into a model where you can sustainably grow the technology, rather than all at once take all your funding up front, build the thing, who knows if they want it, and also, oh, by the way, you don't have any marketing budget left to reach customers with. That's not a great way to go. I think the other side that occurs to me is I've seen a lot of people who are trying to chase the competition. Like, you have to match them feature for feature. And you're never going to differentiate yourself in a marketplace if that's how you approach the problem. You have to be content with having a leaner, smaller product, but focus on the key differentiator. I can't tell, I mean, they literally have customers asking us to match Facebook feature for feature. And I'm thinking, this is a billions and billions of dollar customer. They have hundreds of developers. There's no way you're going to match them feature for feature. You got to focus on what your offering is that's new and unique. And then grow from there and listen to your customers. If they really want stories or whatever WhatsApp's latest crazy thing is, okay, yeah, then we'll go there. But don't just assume they need that.
Also, I would throw in, build it in the right order. We work with a lot of customers right now where I say, you got to let the cake bake. You got to let us build things. A lot of times we have customers, and there's two sides. There's usually the developer side or the tech side, and then there's the design side that we're working with. And they're like, well, when are we going to see final screens? And it's kind of like building a house. They want to see the shiny wood floor that's going to go in, but you're still putting the walls up for the house. You're still building everything. And they're like, I want to see the wood floors. And it's just like, okay, we can do that, but we'll put the wood floors in, but then we're going to have to rip them all out again so we can put the plumbing in and do everything. So you got to build things in the right order. You have to be calm. You have to wait for certain things to get done first. And then building on the last thing with marketing, especially coming from the gaming market, so many people think, oh, my game's going to be a hit. All I have to do is get it out there, and it's just going to rain down on me. Unfortunately, no. What really helps a game when it's out there is the marketing, is actually pushing every single week. You're spending marketing on, Facebook, other different ads, other different services to get your game out there or your product in front of the customer. So you need to save that money. Don't put it all in building it, and build the right features, get it out.
And if you're B2B, that translates to sales as well, right? So as a founder, you're the #1 salesperson. Don't try to hire that out until you've sold, say, 7, 8, 9, 10 clients, because you need to learn, you need to be looking at the customer when they tell you your product sucks and they don't want to buy it, right? If you need to be looking at the customer when they say, we love this piece, can you do more? If you don't have those natural instincts, you need to develop them. You are the #1 salesperson. You cannot pass that task off until you start scaling. It does become very important to scale once you get to a certain point, but the amount of information that you are capable of reading from a customer and the amount of value you will get by putting your passion out there and having an honest discussion, a transparent discussion, so valuable, right? You build that into your marketing, you build that into your development. And if there was an overall theme to this, I would say, don't spend as much time with your product as you think you need to. Do less, less. Do as little as possible on the product side, because your business, the marketing, the sales, the customers, how your cultures get built, how you run how you spend your energy, your time, your money, matters so much more than your product than you think, right? Your product needs to solve one problem. You have a dozen other problems to solve when you're building a business. Move on.
I would add one last thing. If you're the #1 salesperson, the #2 salesperson has got to be everyone else who works with you. Because if everyone isn't selling, I don't think you're going to make it as a startup.
Yep.
3, the magic number.
Ignore your competitors. This is something I get pushed back all the time on from founders. I can't tell you, if I had $1 for every time someone had said, but the competitor does it, or, but we need to get to market because our competition's going to scoop us, or, I'm competing with Amazon. I need to get there faster because they're just going to eat my lunch otherwise, right? I would be like a VC and I wouldn't run Modern Logic because I'd have so much money. Your competition doesn't matter. If anything, the only thing you can really learn from them is where they failed, right? If you don't have a value differentiator that exceeds your competitor's value differentiator, there is no way to succeed no matter how much you clone what they build, right? The only time a feature matters is when it opens a new market, when it allows you to deliver a unique value to a unique type of customer, or when the customer is telling you, okay, I'm in a regulatory environment where I literally cannot purchase from you unless this feature exists. Otherwise, what your competitor has on the back of the box Doesn't matter. You should focus on your 1, 2, 3 differentiating features and ignore your competition, because your real competitor is Netflix. Your real competitor is the couch. Your real competitor is your customer saying, they don't care about your product like you do. They're not going to be amazed. They got other shit to do. They got kids waking them up at 3 in the morning. They got cats that won't let them sleep. That's my personal problem, right? You think you're gonna blow their socks off. They're gonna be like, right? So don't worry about that. Worry about getting past that That's what you got to do first. You can worry about your competitor later. And if you're competing with Amazon, there is no way you can move faster than them if they really want to. If they want to kill you, they'll kill you, right? You need to create a value differentiator that's a niche that they don't care about, right? I like to say your platform is another real competitor, right? Make sure if you're building on Shopify that Shopify isn't incentivized to build the feature you're building on top of them, right? Amazon's the same way. They'll eat you and you'll be gone. Apple will eat you. They don't care. They'll be very nice when they do it. Ask me how I know later. But yeah, people say, okay, we got to get to market. First mover advantage. Doesn't matter. First mover advantage is so overblown. What you need to do is make sure that your product solves a real world problem and that you know how to reach the people for whom that problem solves and that problem is attached to money. That's it. It's a simple problem and it's so hard to get right. And while you're looking at all this other stuff, the competitive landscape, you're failing to focus on that problem. But I like to say it has to solve the punch you in the face problem. If someone opens your app, say you're building a mobile app, and it punches them in the face, and they're like, oh, screw that. I'm not going to get punched in the face tomorrow. You don't have a good enough product. Your product should be able to punch your consumer in the face, and they'll open it again tomorrow. If that doesn't happen, then keep working. Keep working on that core differentiator. Chip, you want to?
I would just say there's a corollary to that. I think a lot of people obsess over the polish and finesse of some of the established players, and they think, oh golly, if I can make my animation as cool looking as Facebook's, as Twitter or whatever, then I'll be successful. And the reality is, customers don't care about that stuff, or if they do, it's probably the 20th thing on their list. I just think about how long did Craigslist hold the pole position for that niche, and it looked like it was HTML written in 1994. It didn't matter what it looked like. It solved the problem. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I mean, at one point we had a customer, and it was a big customer, it was a Fortune 500, pay $80,000 for a single animation. Don't do that. Use the platform animations.
We paid $300,000 for an animation.
Okay, but Chip's got my story beat.
No, but I actually have been in that situation where I had to create a V1 product that was competing with a product that's been out for 30 years and got to get it out in a year. And that's where you really got to look at yourself and say, okay, they're the gorilla. This is what they're doing. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do something better. We're going to make our controls better. We're going to make this better. Got it out there, and then then got fans, and they're like, we like this game better. We like how it looks. We like how it plays better. And then we started to build on that. But if we just waited until we got every single feature that EA did, we would never ship. I mean, they've been building it for 23 years. And, is there anybody with EA hockey fans out here? Believe it or not, there's Genesis code still in there. So you really, like as Andy said, look at what you're going to build those features right, get them out there, start getting feedback on it, and then building that audience. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I want to make sure we have some time for some QA at the end. So ship early, ship often, get to the starting line. This is something I say a lot. You think that your 1.0 is the beginning of the end of the line where you're going to launch, you're going to make money, right? I run into founders who, believe it or not, still believe that. They call it a 1.0 for a reason. It's because there's going to be 10 other versions at the end of that, and not even including the dot releases. So if you're waiting a year to get your 1.0 out to the market, well, you got 10 years now before you get to the successful product, right? Do not wait to get to market. Ask yourself, what is the dumbest thing I can ship that people would actually pay for, and ship that. So once you ship, that's when you start running into the really interesting problems. And the two big ones, and you'll have both, are acquisition and retention. Acquisition, marketing, and sales are going to drive that for you. It's being in the store, being available on the web. It's not a build it and they will come. I worked with some early people in the App Store who, they got the benefit of Apple spending a ton of money marketing their app. You do not have that luck. Getting featured in what's hot is not going to make your app successful, right? You need to have a strategy for marketing and sales. And then for retention, you want to make sure your leaky bucket gets the holes plugged as soon as possible. You will have a leaky bucket, right? Do not go and buy a Ferrari on the first week's sales. That's a really bad idea. Do not multiply the first week's sales by 52 and go, ooh, I have a $100 million business. No one on this stage has done that before. So yeah, really focus on, analyze ship. You want to create a loop, a process where you are learning, you are incorporating that learning, you are shipping again, you are learning it, you are incorporating that learning, you're shipping again. Make that process as smooth as possible. Listen to your customers. Your customers will tell you what they like, what they don't like. Listen to them. But one other piece of advice, this is I learned the hard way at Adobe, your customer is right about the problem, but usually wrong about the solution. So if they tell you something, this needs to be fixed, and here's how to fix it, ignore everything at that latter part of the thing, because they don't know what you know about how to solve problems. They just know that they're hurting and that they think you have the solution.
So, software has changed over the last, 20 years.
Since dinosaurs walked the earth.
Yeah, but for a real good example, I guess Apple doesn't do it anymore. They don't put the red dot. Remember they used to put the red dot when it got updated?
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore because it's constantly being updated and being in the background. Look how many times they've updated that app. Maybe it's your favorite app. They're constantly updating the app. They're fixing bugs. They're making improvements. They're making subtle adjustments. And other big thing on here is that analyze, ship, test, repeat. You got to be doing that constantly after you ship. Big thing is testing out different things. One of those things is testing payment. We used to mess around with the payment that people would pay for the games. And one of the things I really learned is don't limit the amount of money people will give you. And so we would put in our games $99 one, and we'd laugh, how many people are going to do this? And then next week we're like, oh my God, 1,000 people actually bought that? Great, but you need your minnows and you need your minnow, what is it goes? Minnows, dolphins, whales. Yeah. You can't count on all your whales. You need that whole food chain. But test, do A/B testing to figure out what's going on, what they like. And last one, talk to your customer a lot. Listen to them. Andy, I think you had something to say.
Well, you mentioned testing, and one interesting thing that has come about in the last couple of years is companies that were pioneers in mastering this A/B testing, like Facebook is probably one of those. People have left those companies and created services that you can now use to do an outstanding job very easily of testing. Is this part of the feature better, or is this way of doing the feature better? And we've been implementing that in some apps for clients that we're working on right now, and it's just so interesting. The tool makes it so easy to see there is a difference. Streamlining this onboarding really makes a difference. You can see it. Or something you were convinced was going to be a huge difference doesn't matter at all. Yeah, it might have some uplift here, but then there's a corresponding downside. And so on the whole, it's actually a bad idea to do that. So take advantage of those tools. Actually, that's just a piece of it. Part of our job as technologists anymore is not just writing code, but this kind of integration thing. There's so many things out there, finding them, piecing them together. That'll also help you get to the starting line faster.
There's little things that you can do too. It's like we're changing our icon in the App Store to see which one attracted more people. And there were studies that showed if it was a face with the mouth open, for some reason people clicked on it and downloaded it. Or just changing the color of it, changing for the season. Mixing it up actually helps people get to your app. So constantly doing those little A/B testing. And a great example was, I keep using this one today, I don't know why, but remember Farmville? They literally would do the same ad, but change the animals, change the animal colors, and got it down to a science which one would work in the stream. That's how deep they went on the A/B testing, and it worked.
Yeah, and the last point on this slide, which I really want to highlight, is features do not create sales, which seems really counterintuitive. If you run a startup and it is not selling, the worst thing you can do is spend more money writing features. You need to go and talk to your customer and ask, why aren't you buying this? My last startup, we spent 2 years adding features to the product. We had hundreds of features. We got clobbered because the other competitor had a better business model, right? That's what you need to be focusing on. Making your product better does not actually make people buy more unless it opens a new market or it removes a barrier from a customer purchasing. And that is the exact opposite of what product people want to hear. As a product person, I understand that, but your fancy new widget that you want to add is not going to make your business successful. Taking the time to make your business successful will make your business successful. That's much harder, actually, especially if you're a technical founder like I was. It was so easy to add features and so hard to talk to human beings. Don't be me. Learn from me. Let's move on. All right, so tip number 5, and this is another one that I think is kind of a hot button issue, because I lived this dream, and those of you attending Fun will see what dream I lived, of sleeping under my desk and burning the midnight oil. And we shipped so much software at 3 in the morning. Literally, my previous SaaS startup, we pressed the button to go live after having fixed bugs until 5 in the morning at 5:30, and then we got on a flight to WWDC to meet with Apple. And by the time we hit the ground, we had made hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That was awesome. Totally the wrong way to do it. We had so many bugs. We did not need to ship to meet with Apple. We shouldn't have met with Apple at all. Another story for another time. But my point here is you need to take care of yourself, because getting to that 1.0, this is a marathon, not a sprint. That 1.0 is the starting line, not the finish line. If you've jogged or just outright ran the whole way and you do not have any emotional energy, if your significant other is looking at you like someone needs to spend time with this kid because they don't know who you are, well, you're going to look back and trust me.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. That was running through my life at Microsoft and Activision.
Yeah, you're going to look back and you're going to really wish you did this differently. Trust me. The way to work on a startup is to work smarter, not harder. And the other thing to remember is what you're doing now, what you're doing to your team, you will not be able to stop doing when you're at 50 people. If you do find success, the choices you think are optimizing your business right now will kill your business when you try to hire, you try to retain, when you try to build a culture that actually matters to people. So make sure that culture starts with how you treat yourself as a founder. And trust me, I've started 5 businesses. I know what the impetus is to work really hard, but there's always a smarter solution.
Yeah, that's totally true. Company culture is really important to me. And what I've heard from founders who have companies that have grown without thinking about it, they're full of regret that they didn't put that in place early. Because once you've got momentum of people who have a culture of not caring about each other or not collaborating or just work until you drop, it's very hard to change course and establish a healthier balance. And creating technical products is hard work. It takes your best brain. And when you work too hard, you're not making good choices. You're creating a lot of bugs in the code. You're making mistakes. You're taking shortcuts. You're going to Stack Overflow and just copying and pasting it in without thinking. Now you have a code base that's harder to understand. It's harder for people to work in. The problem kind of cascades. Whereas a refreshed brain that's thinking clearly can create more elegant code that's easier to maintain. It's easier to add features to in the future. It's better tested. It's just a better situation all around. So if you're just looking at hours that butts are in chairs, you're going to get a bad result. It's more about the quality of the product that's being produced and are people energized and healthy at workplace.
And I'll say burnout is a real thing. I'm only 25 years old. I know it doesn't look that way, but you know, when I first started out, I thought we called ourselves iron people. You know, how many days did you work in a row? We were 3 days. You know, I got a futon in my office. I sleep there. You know, we thought we were cool. I did not know what impact that would have on me. Now I'm actually 57, but I'm just like, I feel like I'm 80 at times. It's just like I can't go back to that. And what I learned was I was actually working at digital sweatshops. That's what I was at. I was at a digital sweatshop when I was at Microsoft and Activision. Actually, we call them fun prisons. You know, they have the game room, they have the gourmet food, they have all that things just to keep you there to work. What you don't understand is you never get to play ping pong, you never get to go in the game room because you got to get your work done. So find out what your culture is, and that's what we're doing a lot, is talking about what's important. We're finding out it's important that I can leave at 3:30, pick up my kids, and come back, and then work from 4 to 5. And we're like, cool, see you later. You know, that's important. We got to find out what's important to your people. Because if you just burn them out, you're going to be known as a digital sweatshop, or all your best people are going to leave because they can't keep it up. It's just, you're like athletes. After a while, Serena retired. She can't do it, you know, like she had been doing it before. She's at the top of her game, but she realized, I can't do that anymore. That's the same that's going to happen to the people on your crew. You're going to have to say goodbye to them. And if you're pounding on them, you're shortening their lifespan with you. So.
It's not always true, though. We did play Mario Kart at Adobe at like 3 in the morning when we were done with our final
sometimes
build.
those are fun, but also I had a party at my house after we shipped, and I had a wife come up to me and bitch me out in front of 60 people about how I kept her husband away, and that was really hard. That was hard, and also having a 5-year-old, when you come home at 8:30, when you said you were going to be home at 5, yell at you. That really hurts a lot. So think about it, and I'll give one quick thing that if you're in that situation, a boss of mine at Microsoft, someone was grabbed in the hallway and goes, "You can't leave right now. You know, we got to get this done." And he said, "It's my night with the kids." And he goes, "I didn't know you were divorced." He goes, "If I don't go home, I'm gonna be divorced." So use that as a tip. You got to go.
Yep. All right, let's move. I think the next step is QA, and we're going to put up a slide. If you want to tell us we're horribly wrong about this, please drop me an email. If you want to say good things, email these two. I'm happy to argue and debate with you. If you want to know more information, we're happy to reach out. You don't have to want to buy something from us. We love talking to people about this. It's why I started the company. So QA, anyone have some questions? We have about 3 minutes left, unfortunately.
I know you guys are slightly biased towards apps. I think that's where you spend most of your time. Do you guys have perspectives for companies that are going into MVPs that aren't necessarily a gaming product or something where you're interacting? Whether you do a app, not do an app, start online. I had an interesting phone call the other day, and I was talking to Quicken. We had opened up an account, and they obviously have both apps and digital online, and even the service rep said, well, you shouldn't do that through the app because we don't support that anymore. Always go online, which kind of surprised me for a company that size. But what's your perspective of app versus online or both, and when do they come together? And I know it's product dependent as well, I get that.
I just want to say a quick thing is what we do when someone comes in, we do a lot of MVPs. We actually sit down and talk to you and go, what is best for you right now? Some people may come in and say, I want an app, we want an app. And we're like, you know what? It's better if you do a web page and you'll get that out faster, or a web app. So it's not always that. We try to build what is the best for them. Turn it over.
Yeah, I mean, some reasons you have to do an app is if there's, say, a device integration, like over Bluetooth or something. Those things basically can't be done as web apps. Or if they're really tight device integration for other reasons, or you really want push notifications or something like that. But I agree, you know, a web app is actually a great place for a startup especially to invest. There's a lot of advantages. You don't have to go through Apple's gatekeeping app review or Google's app review. You don't have to wait for that turnaround cycle. Even if you have complied with all of the App Store policies, there's still just the inertia of it takes 2 or 3 days between when you do a build and you see it live. With a web app, you can be deploying multiple times a day. It's in your customer's hands. And when we think back to the experimentation we were talking about, it's super valuable to be able to iterate and deploy and experiment and test. But
And that's easier on a web.
yeah, that's way easier in a web app.
Yeah, and if you're B2B, all these same principles apply, except you need to spend a little more time selling. That's basically it. You're still doing all these MVPs and et cetera. So we're about down to time, so I think we'll leave. Oh, we got one person, quick. And if you have other questions, and I'll be around, so just.
Yeah, we're here till 8 tonight.
Yeah.
I'm a founder, and my question is not so much on the development of new technology, but as someone who needs to, hire technology, what we're finding is first we're developing an online course. So there's like so many different levels of technology, and when you're talking about in-house versus outsourcing, I'm looking to, or I'm having trouble thinking, well, we have so many different types of technology that we need for our online course. What do we do? And one thing that we found is like a company like Wix is now coming out with their own WPs, and then they also have app development. So for you guys who are a business, but do people who are looking for technology, are they going to get swamped up with all these major companies coming up with kind of really robust and easy to package technology that I can actually even do myself versus hiring out and building something from scratch from, let's say, a small company? Hopefully
It's all about timeline. Get to market quick if a tool lets you get there. The reason robust and easy is it lacks customization. Your business value is delivered on unique value delivered, all right? And so in a lot of ways, you will, as you scale, you will run into issues with those prototyping tools, with those easy-to-use tools, and you will have to rewrite it anyway. But it is a perfectly viable solution to do market validation.
Yeah, especially when you're in an early phase of growth. I like to think of an analogy towards a spreadsheet. Like anyone can drop into a spreadsheet, put some numbers, put some sums on it, and then maybe you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do my whole financial system in this spreadsheet, and it gets to be thousands and thousands of rows. Every row has a different formula in it, and suddenly the numbers don't make sense. And you're arrowing through every cell on your spreadsheet trying to figure out where's the typo in one of those formulas. I feel like these tools are similar. They're great until they reach a level of complexity that you can't reason about it, and you're going through your browser screen after screen, where did I wire it up wrong?
Or you're trying to do something new
Yeah.
that they've never seen.
And source code, real development, is built in such a way that the ceiling on complexity is much, much higher. And teams can reason about it. They can share code. They can collaborate. And I think that's where these tools break down.
All right, they're looking at us like we need to get off the stage, so I'm going to do that. Feel free to grab us, though, and
Come to the
afterward.
fun event at 6.
Yeah, so the fun event is at 6. We're hosting Beers on Us, so feel free to stay here if you're not going over to mini demo, and tell me, just ask us any of these questions you would ask us up here.
Thanks
We're
a
happy to
lot.
answer.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the week.